You're listening to the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio Network.
Fabulous.
Live with the very latest food, beverage, and travel trends.
Amazing.
Now here's the host of our show, Mr. Randall White.
That's right. It's the top of the hour here on the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio Network's Market Fresh Show, where we're all about putting you in touch with the foods you eat. You arrived at California's #1 place to talk about such things. Well, the state of our food and beverage scenes with a local, seasonal, and sustainable focus. Later on today's program, we're speaking with the drummer for rock superstar Eddie Money. This guy has been on the road seriously performing for decades. I'm trying to think when the first time I saw Eddie Money was. It had to be in the early 80s, and he was certainly around before that. And this guy's been the drummer for most of those years. Well, not that long ago, he was diagnosed with cancer, but we're happy to say it's now in remission. We'll talk with him about how he fought it, including a few major changes to his diet that you've heard on this very show from our upcoming guest. So a really interesting segment. We'll talk about what he completely stopped eating and how he believes it worked. Then during our farmers market segment, we check out some innovative programs in Monterey County, where one of the local farmers market organizations are growing nutritious foods, feeding those in need, and helping some members of the community learn valuable career skills all at the same time. But first up this hour, it is our regular CookWell with Courtney segment. We check in with Courtney Coleman a few times each month to learn some of the tips that she teaches at classes along the Central Coast. If you ever have a topic for Courtney, feel free to send it our way via the contact page at eatdrinkexplore.com. And this is one of those lucky weeks that we have Courtney in studio with us. And hello, my dear.
Hello.
Yeah, so you're going to love listening to this interview with the drummer for Eddie Money. It's like he was listening to your segment all along and just took some of your tips and ran with it. And
Awesome.
He's in remission right now, which I think is absolutely fantastic.
Great.
So today, Courtney, the topic is, if I understand correctly, Candida, which,
Yes.
I've heard it before, but I didn't really know what it was, and I looked it up, and it turns out it's a yeast that's responsible for a large number of fungal infections.
Right. And there's many symptoms. They say 80% of North Americans have Candida yeast overgrowth. And there's actually 17 different types of Candida yeast, of which there's a certain number that are bad for us and that can overgrow the good bacteria and the good yeasts.
Okay.
So the balance gets upset with our standard American diet after we take a course of antibiotics or generally are exposed to a lot of toxins and pollutants and antibiotics through food,
Right.
stress. All of it upsets our bacterial balance, and we don't have a lot of live probiotic cultured vegetables and other cultured foods in our diet, generally in this culture. Cultured
Right.
foods in this culture. So it's hard to maintain the balance of good bacteria and good yeast. And other symptoms of Candida yeast overgrowth, other than like toenail fungus or yeast infections in women, are red blotchy skin and flaky dry skin, kind of foggy headedness, they say, and then uncontrollable urge for sugar and sweet and refined carbohydrates, because that's sort of what it thrives on.
That's what the yeast is feeding on, and it needs it and wants it, so then you sort of sense that.
You crave it, yeah. It's almost like it's a parasite on you, driving you to go feed it.
Right. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I know.
So foggy-headedness,
Yeah.
red blotchy skin, and dry flaky skin.
Dry skin.
Would it maybe also dandruff?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, any of that dry skin stuff. But I mean, commonly the white coating on the tongue, yeast infection in women, and then toenail fungus. These are all real clear markers for it. A craving for sugar.
Yeah.
You know?
None of it pleasant,
Right.
So clearly these are yeasts that we want to get rid of. How do we get these yeasts in our system to begin with? Are they just floating?
They're in the air.
They're in the air.
Yeah.
Because I know that yeast has been on my mind lately. I have been doing the, where I soak the grains, sprouting. Just today, I cooked up some quinoa that I sprouted. Boy, that stuff sprouted quickly. I was thinking it wasn't going to take forever, and I was thinking, how does this little tiny thing sprout? But but it does.
Yeah.
And but I've noticed that the water that the way I have it set up, it kind of is tilted at about a 45-degree angle. This jar that has all the whatever I'm sprouting, the brown rice, the quinoa, and it drains into a little pot area, and that water gets really white and has a very yeasty smell to it. And so I was thinking, that must just be natural yeast that was either mixed in with the grains that I'm sprouting or in the air. But I keep smelling that, and you forget yeast is just naturally around us everywhere.
Right. And with sprouting, you can rinse those grains or beans or nuts or seeds or whatever you're sprouting with ascorbic acid, which is sort of like it's a form of vitamin C that inhibits yeast growth and mold. So you can deter mold from growing on your sprouts with it.
Yeah, in fact, the woman who sold the jar to me recommended that if I was going to be eating them without cooking them. And so I thought, oh, well, I'm always going to be cooking, so I didn't buy the ascorbic acid, but I think I will just to kind of tamp down that
exposure.
Yeah,
exactly. Anyone on a yeast diet or an anti-yeast diet can't have mushrooms, can't have cheese or any fermented foods. The sauerkraut and kvass and kimchi inoculates your system with the good yeast and the good bacteria that you want. So that's sort of an exception to the rule. But it's interesting. The Candida diet really helped me a lot and a lot of people I know.
How long have you been on the Candida diet?
Well, I'm not anymore. I don't have to anymore because now I have a good balance going on, and my good yeast and good bacteria are keeping the bad bacteria in check finally in my life.
Well,
so I can have a glass of wine, I can have a beer, or something, with honey or sweetened or a lot of fruit, and it doesn't overgrow, and I don't get symptoms anymore.
I'm so lucky I've evaded this for so many years because, oh my gosh, I've managed microbreweries and I've certainly had my share of craft beer and wine. And cheese. I just before I went vegan, I used to use the expression, I love cheese so much I could bathe in it. Seriously, I have had my share, and shockingly, as far as I can tell, I haven't had any problem with Candida. But if you're listening right now and this rings a bell with you, you'll want to stay tuned because after the commercial break, when we come back, Courtney Coleman of CookWell with Courtney will explain to us how to get rid of these colonies of yeast in your body and certain tactics for getting the right mix, as you put it, right, Courtney? The
good probiotics.
The good probiotics in your gut. We'll figure that all out. Also, if you want to check out Courtney online, it's cookwell.org. She really got one of the best websites out there. You must have got it a long time ago because those are...
That domain, like 7 or 8 years ago,
All right, we're back in just a moment, everyone. You're listening to the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio Network. And we are back 19 minutes now past the hour here on the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio's Market Fresh show, where we take a look at all things fresh and natural with a really heavy focus here in California. Of course, a reminder that our next guest at the bottom of the hour is the drummer for Eddie Money, who will explain how he fought off bladder cancer and did it by cutting a few things completely out of his diet. And he'll explain how that worked for him. And then in our farmers market segment, we head to Monterey County to take a look at some really encouraging programs, very successful programs they have running there that involve feeding people that are food insecure and also teaching them how to grow their own food and some valuable skills in terms of getting jobs and moving up in the career world. So that all straight ahead. But right now we're speaking with Courtney Coleman. She is the woman behind CookWell with Courtney. She teaches people how to cook and eat nutritiously throughout the Central Coast. You can find more information at cookwell.org. And today we are talking about Candida, which is a yeast strain that causes fungal infections in people and a wide range of problems, including red blotchy skin, dry, flaky skin, a sense of foggy headedness. Maybe I have had a problem actually.
Foggy headedness.
The foggy headedness rings a bell.
Yeah.
But when we left right before the commercial break, Courtney, you were saying there are ways to kill these colonies, but it isn't easy.
Right. We have to starve the colonies of yeast that have been living in us for however many years they've been living there and establishing roots into our intestinal walls and getting really established. So for me, because I did broad spectrum antibiotics, one called tetracycline for acne for 3 years, I was on an antibiotic for acne. My mom was a nurse, and she could get it, and they didn't know any better.
I took that when I was in like 7th or 8th grade. Same reason.
For acne, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you're not supposed to stay on it that long. And then, now we know to do courses of probiotic bacteria afterwards. And they say like a lot of a really viable probiotic, one that's really potent and definitely live, good quality one for like 2 months, every day for 2 months after you do any course of antibiotics to repopulate. And of course we didn't do that.
No. So, these antibiotics, in many cases, it's like carpet bombing. They just go in there and they kill everything.
Right. And it's in our meats too.
Right.
And then it gets into our system and kills good bacteria in us. And we are actually like 90% beneficial bacteria and yeast. Well, ideally we should be beneficial, but there are so many trillions of bacteria and yeast living all over in our bodies, on our bodies, and we're basically like a walking host for all these wonderful bacteria that want to keep us alive and healthy.
Yeah, all mostly good, like you said.
Yes, and when there's enough good ones, they keep the bad ones at bay. Like people who eat out at the same restaurant, but some of them have a lot of what's called L. plantarum lining the epithelial tissue of their whole digestive tract, won't get food poisoning, but the person who's lacking in enough of those L. plantarum to protect them, they will get food poisoning because it's what's called leaky gut. Those bad bacteria will leak into the bloodstream.
Oh. Yeah,
through the gut.
None of that sounds pleasant. So we want to avoid it. And how do we? So it sounds like the trick is to boost the good colonies so that they win the war.
Mostly
right?
After starving the bad colonies.
Okay, so how do you starve the bad colonies?
You deprive them of any foods that turn to sugar or any foods that turn the blood pH into the acid end of the spectrum.
Okay. So you want to have a more base system? Is that?
And I'll mention this book now, and I'll mention it again at the end. It's called The Body Ecology Diet by Donna Gates.
Okay.
And this is one for immune boosting, AIDS, cancer, and Candida yeast overgrowth. This is a diet that alkalizes the blood and boosts immunity and starves yeast.
Mm-hmm. And what does this involve? Cutting out just about all carbohydrates?
Basically, and there are a few lower glycemic, real nutrient-dense whole grains that you can have that are fine. And we all know what quinoa is now these days.
Yeah, I just made a pot of it.
Yeah, so that's one of the 4 or 5 grains that are allowable. And they're ones that don't have a real high glycemic aspect, like wheat or corn or white rice. You know, it's amaranth, millet, buckwheat, quinoa.
Chia?
Well, chia is a seed.
Okay.
Chia isn't necessarily grain, but I would say chia is fine on the diet. But, no honey, no sugar, no fruits, no wine. Alcohol it turns to sugar in the blood, and it also sends the pH over to the acid end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah. White flour does too. And white flour is high glycemic. So you're eating fruits and vegetables, lightly cooked or raw, whatever your digestion does best with. But Not too much heavy fats and oils. Candida yeast thrives in an environment. It sort of gets damp and cozy with a lot of heavy fats and oils. So it's really great to do this after the new year, after the sugar season, right? The holidays, which we're coming up on.
Yes.
So you might want to think about it for spring of 2014, March or April when the weather starts warming up. And at Farmers Market, there's tons of wonderful vegetables coming into season. You're going to be on vegetables and a little bit of these lower glycemic whole grains and good quality animal protein or beans. The low glycemic foods.
Yeah. And then once you start, and so then how long do you have to be on that? Because I don't know how
For
long
me,
I can do that.
It depends on how long the yeast has been living in your system because it tends to grow roots into your intestinal walls and vaginal walls. You'll do a course of antibiotics, whether it's diflucan or grapefruit seed extract. Take your pick, natural or chemical.
Yeah.
But it will just kill the surface, and the roots are still there. So as soon as you eat white sugar, white flour,
They're back.
it grows right back, right? And so because I had done the tetracycline for 3 years to get rid of acne, it was killing all my beneficial probiotics, and the yeast took over.
Yeah.
So I had to do the Candida diet for 6 months.
Ooh.
And it took me a good 6 weeks just to work my way down to be low glycemic enough to be able to do the Candida diet. I tried on January 1st, but it took me till about mid-February before I could stop eating those dried figs and dates at night, like I was used to.
How could you tell that you reached the point where you were done, that you could get off this diet? Was there like some telling signs physically that you're like, you know what, I think I've reached that point?
Well, you seem to start feeling better immediately. And you just want to make sure that whole time that you're starving the bad yeast, that you're supplementing good probiotics through a supplement or a live cultured food like sauerkraut, kimchi, good probiotic yogurt that's not sweetened,
So those are things then you would start eating post-diet?
During the diet and afterwards.
Okay.
And you can hit it with an antifungal after, like most people would probably do best on it for about 3 months. I was kind of an extreme case. That's why I did it for 6. But then I hit it with an antifungal, which was grapefruit seed extract, and just made sure I did tons of probiotic foods. I always had a batch of sauerkraut going. We can talk about that next time, how to culture your own foods.
That would be
complex.
great.
It's kind of complex. And I think there's websites that guide you through it.
Yeah, I'd love to do that, culturing your own foods.
Yeah, I teach that at New Frontiers.
What is what's the science behind this? Does the diet have any studies yet to show that it is beneficial? I know there's a lot of circumstantial evidence, people saying it totally worked for me.
Yeah. And everybody's biochemistry is different.
Yeah.
So, these diets come out and they work for like a third of us. But the Candida diet it's just so common among so many people, right? 80% of North Americans have Candida yeast overgrowth. So it's going to benefit most people. And most people are eating a pretty high glycemic diet. And if you look at indigenous cultures, they don't. They don't spike their blood sugar throughout the day. They eat a half an apple, and it's this wonderfully sweet treat.
Yeah.
And they're not eating packaged foods. Those are the 2 things they don't do that keep them. And they have tons of natural good bugs in their environment, and they're not so sanitary, and they eat a lot of probiotic foods, cultured foods.
Courtney Coleman, CookWell.org. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
People can get more information at your website. All right, everyone, stick around. We're back in just a moment talking about changing your diet to help fight cancer.
Okay.
And welcome back to the program, everyone. 33 minutes now past the hour. I'm your host, Randall White, here on the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio Network. This, of course, our Market Fresh Hour. And this portion of Eat, Drink, Explore Radio is brought to you by Luna Red Restaurant, just off Mission Plaza in downtown San Luis Obispo. So whether you're heading north from the south or south from the north, and you find yourself on the Central Coast passing through San Luis Obispo, first off, you should just pull off and check out the beautiful downtown and the Mission. And then when you're finished with that, literally, it's just steps away, a stroll over to Luna Red Restaurant. Perfect location to enjoy happy hour in downtown. $5 Sunday through Wednesday from 3 to 6, and Thursday all day long. And that's also the famous farmers market, right? So It's a good idea. Whether you're visiting or you call this stretch of the Central Coast your home, Luna Red is a locavor's dream. For more information, head to lunaredslo.com. All righty. So the other day, I was doing my daily lap swim, and one of my neighbors called out to me and said, "Hey, Randall, my son is here that I told you about. I want you to meet him." And so right there in the pool next to me is this guy, Glenn. And I said, "Oh, hi, Glenn." And so it turns out Glenn is Eddie Money's drummer. And for anyone around my age, that's a big deal. I've seen Eddie Money in concert literally a half a dozen times, and had no idea that I was seeing Glenn perform in most of those occasions. And so I got to chatting with him, and it turns out that he just fought off cancer, and he did it in a very interesting way that I thought you would enjoy. So I asked him if he'd come on the show, and he joins us now on the live line. Glenn Symmonds here in California. He's just moved to the Golden State, and we're glad to have him. Hey, Glenn.
Hey, everybody. How you doing? Yeah, I'm actually from California, and I've lived the last 10 years of my life in the Midwest, and I just drove the Penske truck and a Harley out here, not at the same time, by the way, and arrived yesterday. I live in Sacramento.
Well, you did it at a good time. We're heading into fall and winter, and I've lived winters in the Midwest, so I feel you. I know the
Yeah.
feeling to want to come back. Glenn,
Yeah.
what type of cancer was it that you beat?
I had bladder cancer. I was diagnosed April 29th. I had been urinating blood for a couple of weeks and got a little scared, obviously,
Yeah.
and wanted to check that out to make sure everything was okay. I was told by friends and whatnot who thought they were in the know, say that it was just a premature kidney stone that I was passing. And so I went along with that for a little while, but it became more regular and different things were coming out, and it just was not good. When I was diagnosed with bladder cancer, I had waited a little too long, and the doctor thought that it is probably going to go into the muscle of the bladder, in which case it becomes stage 2 cancer, and then they remove everything.
Right.
So we fought like hell. I wanted advice from everybody that was in the know. If you knew anything about cancer, I wanted to know how to beat it. And one of the things they said right off the bat was quit eating sugar.
You know, Glenn, we have a woman that is on our Market Fresh show. She's a health cook that we have on the show almost every week, and she has been, to use your term, she's been beating the drum for a long time, saying you've got to cut refined sugar out of your diet because it is responsible for so many degenerative diseases.
Yes, and even beyond that, no sugar. From health fanatics, people who are into raising the alkaline level of your body to where the cancer can't live, say no sugar, no fruit turns to sugar. Even it's a better quality of sugar. But if you're fighting cancer, I wanted to get to the end result as quick as I could and beat it as fast as I could. I was up against the clock of it racing to the muscle, and I didn't want to lose my bladder, and I didn't want to lose the prostate, which goes along with the bladder.
Right.
And so I quit sugar instantly, and I quit eating meat. I started juicing, and I started eating raw vegetables. I started to check my pH level, and I saw it increase, which was what I wanted to do. It was at about low 6s, and I wanted to get it up to about 8 or 9 to where if your body is super healthy, the cancer can't exist. It's like a swimming pool. You pay a guy to clean your pool and keep it clean and healthy, and as long as you do that, you can swim in there without any problem. But if you let it go and don't pay anybody to come and fix it, and you don't do it yourself, the pool becomes dirty and yucky, and after a year, it becomes you can't swim in it anymore. It's just too filthy. Well, your body's the same way. So in order to, when I started doing the juicing and the raw, no sugar, I started feeling a little bit weak. And I didn't want to eat meat to get the protein, so I got the protein from lentils and beans. Suddenly my strength came back, and I got turned on to this other thing from people. I don't smoke. I don't do marijuana. I don't do drugs. I don't drink. but they suggested to go on YouTube and look up the success of cancer and hemp oil.
Mm-hmm.
So I got some hemp oil from somebody, and I took 2 or 3 drops under my tongue at bedtime every night, and I think that was a big part of my cure, and I still take it.
I use hemp.
They
I
say-
use hemp protein, Glenn. I mix it into various things that I'm having. Sometimes a chili or something. I'll stir in a little powdered hemp protein also, and hemp seeds. I use hemp seeds in my cereal in the morning. I mix it in with my oatmeal.
I think it's good, and for those of you who don't know about that kind of stuff, you're not going to hallucinate or get high on it. It is an herb. It is a plant of God's creation, and it serves a purpose, and it does heal. So I'm a big promoter of hemp oil for cancer.
Glenn, what was the purpose for? Now you explained the cutting the sugar out of your diet. What did you hear about the meat? Why did you cut meat out?
Lots of worms, things like that in meat.
Yeah.
All meats are bad. That they were saying. I didn't ask any questions. I just went to people that were familiar with cancer.
You said, "What do I got to do?"
I wanted to. What do I got to do? If you told me to eat grass off my lawn, I would do that.
Right.
That cured cancer. I would do it.
Yeah. No, I know. It's a desperate feeling.
And those are all just things that you're putting into your body. The hemp oil, the no meat, the juicing, the no sugar. All these things are to put into your body. Now, on the outside of your body and in your soul, you need, of course, a loving support of friends and family, and lots of love. And if you don't have that, find it. I don't know. With the invention of Facebook and the internet, I have so many people that know me from Eddie Money's band and have seen me that he put a little thing on his website, and I had hundreds and hundreds of people that contacted me on a daily basis through Facebook to show their love, their concern, and donate to my cause. I'm also not only a musician, but I'm a working musician that does not have insurance. So it was a difficult time for me, and these people helped me a lot.
For people who are... Glenn, for people that are watching our video simulcast of this show at eatdrinkexplore.com, we're sharing some really fun photos that Glenn shared with us that show Glenn not only in his hospital gown and all that sort of stuff as he's battling the cancer, but before and after photos years ago with Eddie Money and then today with Eddie Money. And they're fun photos to look at if you get a chance, or you can always catch it later after the show's over. We do post this all on YouTube, and a link to GlennSymmonds.com. It's 2 N's, 2 M's. So it's Glenn with 2 N's and then SYMMONDS.com. And as always,
the spelling of my name has troubled me my whole life. People have never been able to find me, which is a good thing sometimes.
Right. Glenn, let me tell you, for a Randall that is spelled with one O and one L, I've had the exact same situation. Yeah. Everyone thinks it's an abbreviation for Randolph, and so they'll call me Randolph sometimes. But so you did this change of diet in combination with traditional Western medicine, right?
Well, what do you mean by that?
Did you go undergo chemotherapy and that sort of thing?
I went under a BCG treatment, which is a live bacteria from tuberculosis.
Oh,
that's how they deal with bladder cancer. They they go in you and shoot the tuberculosis inside there, and it attacks the cancer.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, it is totally interesting. They had a whole procedure lined out for me for a 12-week period, and the doctor looked at me and he said, what I would do if I were you, I would do about 4 treatments, and then let's go find out if it's in your bladder, because if it's in your bladder, none of this is going to help you. So let's see if we got it before it's too late. And I said, you're the doc. I trust you. Let's do it. He came into surgery wearing my Beat Cancer Like a Drum T-shirt. I thought that was pretty cool for a doctor, the 70-year-old guy to come in there and work on me wearing my own T-shirt.
I love it. Do you have those T-shirts for sale on your site?
I do. Yeah, they're on my website. Beat Cancer Like a Drum. and I sell them at at our shows. And since the cancer, I'm in remission. Eddie now announces on stage that I beat cancer, and I've got a whole flock of people that come up like an army afterwards that'd like to meet and talk. And it seems like everybody's got someone in their life who's had cancer or is going through cancer or has lost somebody to cancer. And I got invited to play Cancer Stalk in Texas next month. I'm excited about that.
Oh, that's
3 days of music. It's called Cancer Stalk.
That's terrific. And we should let people know that in the 9 o'clock hour of our Sunday Fun Day show here on this station, we will talk about an upcoming run on the Central Coast where a portion of the proceeds go to programs to help keep cancer survivors physically fit. Glenn Symmonds, drummer for Eddie Money. He beat cancer like a drum. Thanks for joining us today, Glenn.
Thanks, Randall.
All right, everyone, stick around. You're listening to the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio Network. We're back in just a moment. Welcome back to the program, everyone. Now 49 minutes past the hour. Time for the final segment of the Eat, Drink, Explore Market Fresh Hour. Keep in mind, there is another whole hour of great food, craft beer, wine, travel, and tourism talk Sundays 9 to 10 right here on this station. This is our Farmers Market segment where we get some great ideas from market managers, vendors, and other players from around the state. And today we're taking it to Monterey County and speaking with Iris Pipard. She is with Everyone's Harvest there, and they are really doing some unique, unique special projects to get fresh food into everyone's hands, from children all the way up to the food insecure. Iris, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so Everyone's Harvest is your set. Which farmers markets do you operate?
We run 5 in Monterey County: the Marina, Pacific Grove, Natividad, Alisal, and Memorial Farmers Market.
Oh, fantastic. And for those people watching online, I just made a correction. I had your name as Irish Pipard.
Okay.
So, I don't know if you're Irish or not, but
I'm not.
No, so it's now corrected as Iris Pipard. But in addition to the markets that you run, you also have some special projects. Let's talk a little bit about those, specifically these community gardens. What are they about? And for a while, they were a partnership, as I understand, with Cal State Monterey Bay.
And they are. And I was really fortunate to work for Cal State Monterey Bay under the Service Learning Institute. We received a USDA grant from the Community Food Project to start 3 community gardens. Well, actually, the first one was started from HUD, and that was to renew an area in Salinas called Chinatown. That's one of the most blighted areas in Monterey County. And part of that was to build a community garden there.
And how do people take part in these gardens? Do they have to live in the neighborhood, or how does that all work?
No, it's pretty open for that one. It was built by people that were currently homeless or very low income in the area. So we're really fortunate with HUD funding to build a job training program that fostered 13 currently homeless or low income individuals in the local area to build a garden and then provide them services to get back into the workforce, and then also to connect to services that apply to them. And so we did that for 2 years, and that funding ran out, and then the garden was built, and then people from the local area started to adopt beds in the garden. So we have a wide range of people, from people that are living in their vehicles in the area, that work for Franciscan workers that run a soup kitchen at Dorothy's Place, to Asians that remember Chinatown as it was more historically Chinatown back in the day before the 1970s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would imagine that the job skills they are learning building a garden like that are very useful in Monterey County, which is known as the salad bowl of the United States.
It is, and kind of ironically, though, a lot of them didn't really go into agricultural work. A few did, but a lot of them, it was just about getting something on their resume and getting used to, just showing up somewhere at 9 o'clock in the morning every day.
So now that Chinatown Community Garden, that one's in Salinas, 25,000 square feet. Another one that you operate is the Pueblo del Mar Garden. That is in Marina on Fort Ord.
It is. And that one is unique that it is in a recovery community. So Housing Authority runs, Housing Authority and Sun Street Centers collaborate together to provide support to families that have been currently homeless and in recovery for 90 days. So that garden is specifically for them, but it's really a way to support those families' recovery.
Yeah, and that one's a full acre as well.
It is.
Then, go ahead.
Oh, it's a little more challenging because it's on Fort Ord because we have sand and gophers, but
right,
it's coming along.
And then finally, of the three gardens that you run, community gardens, you also have the Shoreline Garden. Tell us, that's also on Fort Ord.
It is, and that's a little closer to the ocean, and that is a collaborative garden with 5 organizations. Which are Shoreline, which is a division of Goodwill Industries, and they run a job training culinary program right on the site.
Oh, great.
So the garden works really nice with that. They teach their students, they're working to teach them seed to fork concepts, and the garden fits in with that. And then the other partners are the Marina Tree and Garden Club, and they are residents of Marina that are just really enthusiastic about planting and the agricultural arts. And then there is Chomp, which is the hospital that's right next door, and they have it for their wellness staff. And Veterans Transition Center that's across the street that works with vets. And then Hope Services that work with people with disabilities. So those 5 organizations come together, and they each have their individual areas and different beds, and it's really nice to see all those organizations working together.
What a great collaboration of organizations there, all building around fresh produce. And I mean, you have some of the most fertile soil there in the world. Although, like you mentioned, there at Fort Ord, a little closer to the coast, you've got a lot of sand to deal with.
Yeah,
but
the Salinas definitely has that fertile land, but not the two in Marina.
So about how many people total do you think benefit from these various gardens?
Oh, 100 plus, definitely.
Really?
Yeah. We have, at least 80 beds in Marina there, and then 40 at Pueblo del Mar, and then 40 in Chinatown. And I think in the garden in Chinatown, even folks that don't adopt beds benefit from it because it's really a tranquil place in the community for people to go.
Right.
So a lot of people that are currently homeless don't necessarily adopt beds, but they definitely come in and enjoy the garden.
Would you say that some of these areas, specifically maybe the Chinatown area, was previously a food desert?
Actually, Chinatown isn't designated as a food desert, but it would fit into there that there's just liquor stores and those kind of things that are that close by. But Fort Ord actually is a food desert because so it is. Yeah, the USDA has a website now that actually designates which areas are food deserts. And
Yeah,
which
I saw
aren't.
that. I want to do a feature on that at some point. Iris,
that's very interesting.
we have to have you back on the program to talk about your projects where you help kids learn how to cook.
Okay.
And that sort of thing. But we're out of time for this one. Iris Papard with Everyone's Harvest. Find them online at everyone'sharvest.org. Iris, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Let's see here. I got to skip over to my script. That does it for this hour of Market Fresh. Another reminder, a whole hour of great food, craft beer, wine, travel, and tourism talk Sundays, 9 to 10, right here on this station. I'm your host, Randall White. Bon appetit.